Hello and welcome once again to the Sandro Forte Success live stream. Today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a very good friend of mine and somebody with a CV that is the envy of most of us. Bob Walton MBE, a highly regarded luminary within the hospitality industry. And that's very close to my heart for reasons you'll come to discover. Some of you will know that I have a family background in the hospitality industry. Now, Bob, with accolades far too lengthy to mention, but let's just say for the moment, because otherwise I will take away some of his thunder. He's the longest serving president of the Restaurant Association of Great Britain. He's a pioneer of Restaurant Live, which we'll find out about, I'm sure. He's a chairman of the World Young Chef, Young Waiter, Young Mixologist competition. Really keen to find out about that. He's also a cancer survivor with a story that is as horrific as it is inspiring. But most of all, he is someone that I'm very proud to call a friend. He is a truly amazing man. Bob Walton, welcome to the live stream.
Wow. Thank you, Sandra. That's a great introduction. You need to do all of them for me.
Well, as I said, I meant sincerely what I said about our friendship. It goes back a long way, Bob. But we're not going to, I'm not going to dwell on that too much. Suffice to say, I meant every word. You are an incredible human being. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about some of the challenges that you've had, but I would like you to tell your story because I think that's very important. It's very inspiring. I mean, the journey you've been on is quite extraordinary. But before we get to that, let's just talk about, a brief history of Bob Walton MBE, where it all started, because it was a long time ago. Sorry to mention that. But this incredible journey you've been on that's kind of brought you to where we are today.
Do you know, it is, it's quite, when I think about the journey bizarrely started in Swanage, and Swanage is where we used to go to a restaurant called Forte. And it was like, I think, I'm not sure of the beginning of, I mean, I'm old enough to be the beginning of something, but we used to go, and the dish of all time, of course, which is still the dish of all time. I have no idea if they're still there. The Knickerbocker Glory down at Forte's in Swanage. We used to love it, love it, love it. Anyway, sorry, I've suddenly gone off already on a tangent, but that's where it sort of all started, really. I was in a hotel, and there was a manager of the hotel, and he was very suave and sophisticated, and he wasn't that old, dressed immaculately, had a speedboat, had a great car, and sort of wandered around drinking wine and smiling and making everyone happy. And I thought, well, what a great job that is. And it's not easy. You don't just go into that job, but so I started. I mean, that was the start, and I went. We applied for restaurant managers, no, well, hotel manager trainings and all that sort of stuff. And that's where it went, really. And I ended up at the Savoy. I ended up next at the Strand, and I ended up in London doing all my training. And then to cut a very long story short, I did my college and my training at Ealing, which is now the University of West London, of which I got a wonderful honorary Master of Science degree, which is quite incredible. Um, and um, and then I started my first restaurant when I was 24 years old. So that in itself is young. When I think about it today, it didn't seem young at the time. Um, and then and the sort of rest is history. I went from 24. I started my first hotel at 33. When I say I started, I bought my first hotel at 33. I stayed there for 25 years, but in the same time, I bought pubs and other investments and buildings and farms, etc. And and then all these years later, I'm down in another hotel, which was never the plan, which I bought in my 60s here in Devon, in the most stunning location and the most beautiful. I mean, I bought a Jacobean mansion. Well, I say I better put the we in, hadn't I? My wife and I. Um, and here I am again now, running a hotel with weddings coming in this weekend. So it's a full story.
Well, you mentioned the word suave, sophisticated, and very well dressed, referring to the gentleman you met all those years ago. And you know what, Bob? I don't think I've ever told you this, but when we first met, and I think it was an nth degree dinner that you put on, I still remember those with great fondness. The first impression I had of you was he's very suave, he's very sophisticated, and he's immaculately dressed. So you must have picked something up. Like here you are today. In your home in Devon, in what would otherwise be a fairly relaxed environment. You're still looking resplendent, even dressed casually. So that was my first memory of Bob Walton MBE when I first met you. You started when you were young. You mentioned that word a couple of times. What was the inspiration behind the young chef, young waiter, young mixologist competition? And as I understand it now, 12 countries, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So just going back one thing, one step. So when I started the Nth Degree Club, which was a networking club all focused around hospitality, I wanted to bring people together in amazing locations. Everyone loves hospitality. It's become part of leisure for us. You have £1 to spend. Will you spend it on theatre? Will you spend it on clothes? Will you spend it in restaurants? Well, restaurants seem to be coming near to the top of the list, that you'll go out and have a great time, as opposed to many years ago when it was a celebration event. So when I started the Nth Degree, I had other people's venues and me. So I thought, well, I need to look really, really super slick here and super smart, because I want to feel like if I'm in the Savoy, I want to feel like I'm like the general manager of the Savoy. I want to be that person, you know. And so that's really where I only had myself to sell, but my events to sell. But they were always in beautiful locations. So I thought, well, if I'm in beautiful locations, I better look super smart. And so that was that. And I love clothes, I love fashion, and I love all of the things that go around that. So that was interesting. So back to Young Chef, Young Waiter. So Young Chef, Young Waiter, yes, it's in 12 countries. So Young Chef, Young Waiter is 45 years old this year in the UK. So it's a very historic, iconic competition. And I was very fortunate to be involved with it over the last 25 years. So when in essence, Restaurant Association became the British Hospitality Association, became UKH, basically just mothballed it. I said, you know, I want to continue this. So I acquired the rights to it. And through COVID, we did two things in COVID. One, we bought a hotel in Devon. And two, we created a platform that one could take a competition that was very local, being UK, and make it global. And if you could create a platform that people could apply online, and it's young, it's dynamic, it's Young Chef, it's 28 years old and under, then that means that gives you the opportunity to do other countries if you follow the same formula that we do here, or we did in the UK, and we still do in the UK. So that was the model, and it's worked. And we're now in 12 countries around the world, which I go to every country and help. So my year starts pretty soon. We've already done England. We tried it. We've actually got a TV company very interested in now looking at how we can film the whole process for a global TV event, which would be very exciting. So I go to India in July, and then from India, I go straight to the United States. And then I come back, and then I start to do the Caribbean run, which is really quite nice. And then I do the Asian run, which is Hong Kong, Thailand, and Singapore. And then we come back, we have Wales, and then we go to Lithuania. So, I mean, it's really incredible how many countries have got involved now, and how this competition is global, and how we all end up going in November to Singapore for the World Championship finals. So a young chef, a young waiter, and a young mixologist from each country, when they do their local finals, I think country finals, will represent their country at the world final. So it's like the Young Hospitality Olympics. and there'll be a flag waving ceremony to start, just like the Olympics. And then they, as a country, will become the world champions. So it's not an individual, it's the three who do the best job on the day. So they've all got to do a good job. One part can let the other team down. So it's a team event. I suppose it's a bit like the Ryder Cup of hospitality. You've all got to work together. And if one lets you down, then it can bring the others down. But I mean, you know, they'll all do their amazing job, I'm sure. And Singapore is the most incredible place to host the World Championship. So we arrived there in November with 12 teams of 3 plus judges. And it's, yeah, I mean, it's pretty spectacular stuff now.
Bob, your passion, your enthusiasm, you know, shines through. Every time I speak to you, I'm always inspired. You know, you could be forgiven for kind of hanging up your boots, retiring to your lovely Jacobean mansion in Devon, you know, just doing the things that you do so well. Where does this a never-ending drive and commitment to all the things that you do come from? Is it something that you've always had? Is it because you love it and that's what keeps you going? You know, you said you're in your 60s now. I have to say you don't look it, but you know, you're in your 60s. What keeps Bob Walton going?
I think, you know, the key is doing something you love, which is really important. I'm very fortunate that I've never worked a day in my life. So on that basis, that's my, if you like, philosophy, I suppose, within what I do. If you love what you do, then it's not really a job. I just don't see retirement. I don't see it. I mean, I'm older than people that are retiring, and they say, "Oh, I'm retired." I think, my God, you know, what on earth would you do? I think that at some point I will want to slow down, but I'm also a great ambassador for the great campaign, and I love being involved with that. So I think it's just, you know, I enjoy it, and traveling is really exciting. Last year I went to 3 or 4 different countries that I'd never been to before. And that's really exciting. You know, traveling is, most people retire and then travel. I'm traveling whilst I'm building a business, and it is a business. As much as we have a wonderful charity part of the Young Chef, Young Waiter model, which is Young Chef, Young Waiter Education Foundation, it is a business. And so that's really what I strive for. I like to create businesses. And the same down here, you know, this has been a massive investment down here. Way more, you know, the story was I gave my wife an unlimited budget and she exceeded it. Well, again, it was very much a combo. But so why does one need to do all this, if you like, in my time of life, you know? And I think ultimately one wants to succeed and to build if you really want to be talking about some sort of retirement fund that keeps you, but then keeps you going. You know, everyone I've ever spoken to, if ever I see situations now, again, you know, health is, we've talked about health a bit earlier on. One never knows what's around the corner of how life sort of takes you forward. But on the basis of that, this is the most important thing as I see it, got to keep that active. Then just keep doing it. You know, I've got many friends on the other side who are 80 plus and they're just flat out. And I find that's inspiring to me. You know, when you're 85 and you're going, right, well, we've got to get this done. I'm thinking, crikey, do I still want to be doing that when I'm 85? Maybe I do. I don't know yet.
One of the things, Bob, that I really do identify in you is not just that passion and enthusiasm for what you do, but you know, you mentioned that you purchased the place down in Devon that you're currently in the process of turning into this incredible venue. But you did that at a time when everyone else was probably going the opposite way. You know, you were kind of on the front foot, acquisition, when everything in one's logical part of one's mind might suggest that was absolutely the wrong time, but you did it. Also, you know, you talked about the acquisition of the young chef, young waiter, young mixologist writes, you seem to have this ability to kind of sniff out an opportunity and then turn something that is, fairly embryonic, albeit established, but still with lots of potential, and then turn it into something incredible. How do you do that? Because we get a lot of people that contact us saying, I've got this great idea. I don't really know how to get it off the ground. I don't know what to do next. Is there a sequence? Is there a process? Is there a magic formula? What is it about you that, just seems to, is it experience? What is it that allows you or helps you to find these great opportunities and turn them into something extraordinary?
Yeah, Sandra, that's a really good question. That is a really good question. I think there are people that I look. I mean, there's a friend of mine who came here just recently, and I think, God, he's so brilliant at just making money. How does he do it so well? Everything he touches seems to go boom, And I think, oh my God, I think I'm a creator. I'm not an academic. I'm a creator, and I'm a dreamer. I'm a visionary. And I think, how does one see that opportunity? That's a really good question. I suppose you just, when I first bought my first restaurant, I was 24 years old. I never thought it would ever fail, which it didn't, thankfully. But I never thought. When I had cancer, I never thought I was going to die. And so now, the other thing about here, when you say you sniff out an opportunity, I thought it was a really good opportunity, and it is a really good opportunity. There was a wonderful line that said the easiest thing about buying Langdon was buying it. And that's very true. When you buy a 500-year-old venue and then suddenly you realize what you've done. So, but you deal with those things. So I think with Young Chef, Young Waiter, I always knew that it was an amazing brand, and it brought such joy, and it brought everyone together. It's just, if I go to any chef, Thomas Keller, Gordon Ramsay, any chef, you've seen them on Restaurant Lives and the Chef Lives that we did. They were supporting me because of Young Chef, Young Waiter. They would support me because I've got to know them. But the Young Chef, Young Waiter model, Thomas Keller, great line. In my opinion, the best chef in the world. What is the point of me training a chef to be as good as me? Now, that is a line I'll never forget, because he said there is no point. They have to be better than me. Otherwise, there's no future. Now, what a line that is from the best chef in the world, that if anyone could be as good as him, it would be incredible. But his vision and his thought process is there's no point. They have to be better than me. And so he has another a rule that he says to every one of his staff, do something better today than you did yesterday. I don't care what it is. I don't care whether it's chopping parsley. Just do it better than you did yesterday. And again, think about these ideas that these people. Now, these are incredible people that inspire young teams and young people. So when you take something like Young Chef, Young Waiter, and you bring in the real legends, they all want to assist, because why wouldn't they? Why does a brand not want to assist? Why does a venue not want to assist you? So it's not that difficult to get these people involved if you are me now, who has been involved in it a long time and seem to be passionately supporting the future of hospitality. And that's it. And my job in Young Chef, Young Waiter is to promote hospitality as a vocation, a career, and a profession. And that is the key role. And that means that we're not all academics. I'm not. We're not all going to be doctors and lawyers and solicitors and accountants, etc. There's a lot of people that have just brilliant skills with their creativity and their passion for different arts and crafts and different styles of things. So I just think that's the key to me, is where that's where I get my passion from.
And if you don't mind me saying, Bob, I think your likability, and I don't say that in anything other than a very genuine way. It's not patronizing at all. Your likability, your enthusiasm, it is very compelling. Everything you do, people tend to want to get involved. I mean, certainly that's my experience in all the years I've known you, and I've not known you nearly as long as many of the other people you've just mentioned. It would probably be unfair for me to ask you to identify any young upcoming chefs. I love that line from Thomas Keller, by the way. A great line for anyone listening to this to take away. Whether you're building a team, building a business, you're absolutely right, or rather, he's absolutely right. Always look to encourage others to be better than you. That's the way to grow businesses, I guess. Let's talk, if we may, Bob, about I know that for many people, one's health is not something that one likes to talk about too much, but it is a very important part of your journey, and there is a great lesson for us all in this. So, giving us as much or as little detail as you wish. You were diagnosed with tongue cancer. I mean, clearly, there's a lot of people listening to this who wouldn't even have any idea of what's involved, and particularly the treatment that you went through, which was, I mean, brutal to say the least. So, if you don't mind, just tell us about that, that road bump, because that's, I think, what you would describe it as. To most of us, it would be the end of the line. But as you said earlier, you never once thought about dying, and I mean that runs to the heart of everything that is Bob Walton MBE, right? All the successes, that unwavering enthusiasm and optimism. But tell us about the diagnosis and what happened next.
Yeah, so funnily enough, I was. This is one of the problems of tongue cancer, is you get very dry. I was with Claire Smith, who is the most incredible chef, the now #1 female chef in the world. She has a restaurant called Core. Yeah. At the time I was with her in the Cayman Islands, we were doing a pop-up I'd arranged with the Cayman Islands, who were really looking to enhance their hospitality, to take Claire to the Cayman Islands. I was in the Cayman Islands with Claire, and I came back, and I had this really strange throat. I just couldn't work it out. Something obviously wrong. Then I had these mad headaches. Anyway, so I went through the process. Cut a long story short, it was diagnosed as tongue cancer with an ultrasound. If anyone has any crazy sort of throats, ultrasound is the one to do, and you put it here, and they'll find out what the problem is, because you can have all different investigations, if you like. It's really difficult to track down tongue cancer, because either something goes over it or they don't see it. Anyway, so then you have the diagnosis, which is pretty serious, and the treatment is what's termed radical, because it's very intense. It's 30 bouts of radiation and 6 bouts of chemotherapy for 6 weeks, 5 days a week. It's a job, 5 days a week. I went to London every day from Berkshire, had my treatment, came home again. And then as you go through, if you can imagine, I mean, radiation burns, basically. It kills. It just eliminates everything in your throat. So the most important thing, it kills the tumor. That's a good thing. The other things that you have, it kills your taste buds, it kills your saliva glands, and it kills your lymph nodes, all here. So everything stops, finishes. And it's done with a process of, it's blistered. Your mouth is blistered. I didn't eat for 3 months, so I had a feeding tube for 3 months. So it's serious stuff. But the beauty, there's no beauty about it, but the route to it, if you like, or the end game, is that the chances are the tumor will be killed. The chemo stops it. I don't even know the process much more anymore, but the chemo is obviously assists. The radiation burns it out, and then you are probably burn it out is probably not the right term, but anyway. And then you start the process of recovering. And that is a really now interesting process, because quite simply, you start eating again at some point. You start putting weight on again at some point. Your beard grows back, hopefully, at some point. And And then you realize that nothing tastes the same.
Mm.
Nothing tastes the same. Water doesn't taste the same. Chocolate doesn't taste the same. And nothing tastes the same. And then there was a wonderful line from a dear friend of mine, Pat Anton, and I was in America. We were my first trip. So my diagnosis was in February. I started my treatment in March. And then in August, I just sort of just about recovered enough to be able to fly. And she said, so tell me about it all. Anyway, I told her. She said, do you know how lucky are you to have the opportunity, with all of your knowledge, to have the opportunity to taste food all over again? Must be so exciting. She said it on purpose, but wow, what a line. What a line. And I suddenly realized, God, yeah, so I started eating everything to see how it tasted. And here we are 7 years later. I now know what I like and what I don't like. And I don't drink red wine still. I'm at the time. I don't drink red wine. I don't drink white wine. I can't drink spirits. I can't drink tequila. I can't drink vodka. I can't drink anything like that. I can't eat chili. I can't do, steak really that well. And, people say to me, God, it must be so upsetting for you not to be able to drink red wine. And I said, well, not really, because I'm here. That's the most important thing. And I can drink champagne, as you know. So champagne, so somebody loves me. Champagne is my drink, and Guinness. That's it. Pretty much that's it. And water.
Not a bad life, is it? Drinking, being forced to drink champagne. When I first heard your story, Bob, and I'm just gonna you mentioned just now as you started to tell your story, and thank you for your candor and for being so open about it. And I say that because we are unfortunately hearing more and more and more stories about people suffering from mental, physical illnesses, terminal and otherwise. But one of the things that really stood out for me was, and you mentioned the word job. You went to the clinic, you received your treatment, but you treated it like a job. And I remember you telling me that you used to dress up as if you were going to the office, did you not? And I'm really interested, as I'm sure all the listeners from around the world are, what made you approach it in that way? And did it help? Was it a conscious thing? Was it just something that helped you deal with the situation? Really fascinating that you should put your three-piece suit on, go to the clinic, receive your treatment, then go home. Treating it, as you say, like a job.
There was a funny story. Yeah, I realized that it was 5 days a week. That was the first thing. I had my calendar lined up. I knew exactly where I was going. I did start looking super smart, and as I got through, it got a little bit less, I have to tell you. But I always wanted to, shower and do my hair and make myself look, smart, as if I'm getting up. Now, the longer it went on, the harder it became. But there was one funny story, is that I was in Harley Street and somebody on the door, for whatever reason, thought my MBE was a knighthood. And so in the beginning, he said, good morning, Sir Robert. And I sort of laughed and I didn't say anything. And of course, as it went through, the worse I got, the more I couldn't speak, the more he kept saying, good morning, Sir Robert. And I couldn't say it. And so, bless him, to this day, I'm not Sir Robert, but to this day, it was quite funny. And every morning it sort of cheered me up. So I just carried on. But I just think that for me, presentation in everything I do is who I am. I want to present myself. I did an interview on television recently, and you want to be a smart. I see people on television, and they look such a mess. Especially now we have high definition TVs, and you think, I thought, not that look, I shouldn't really do anything. Anyway, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to criticize anybody. But I just want to be presented as well as I can at whatever the circumstances are, or wherever I am. If it's casual today, then I want to be as smart or just present myself as well as I can in whatever that circumstances are. And when you haven't eaten for 3 weeks and I'm fed by a tube, it's not easy really to and when your neck is all blistered, and I put cling film around my neck in those days to try and stop the water going in because it was hurting. But I still wanted to try and get a shower, but I couldn't use the real shampoo because you had to use different stuff, and because everything was all around your head. Anyway, I still tried to be smart. So I think if you've got a sense of, isn't that, it's back to that sort of general that make your bed in the morning type philosophy, isn't it? Really,
I guess you can't be married to a fashion designer and not look smart anyway, right? But I know it is a,
well, there you are.
It is a standard that you've always kept. Finally, Bob, let me ask you this, and obviously we could talk about your career, your journey for hours and hours and hours. And I'm clearly looking forward to catching up with you soon. We're long overdue. But throughout all of this, from start, you know, the first acquisition at the age of 24, right the way through to your 60s, and now the acquisition of a Jacobean mansion down in Devon. You know, and certainly from my perspective, and I'm sure on behalf of everyone listening, wish you all the success in the world with that. What were the kind of top couple of lessons that you've learned in life that those listening can kind of take away?
Let me just shut this door. Hang on a second. Sorry, somebody's just in the kitchen. I think it's really, I mean, it's just a positive mindset, isn't it? It's just, you know, nothing. I mean, I've always reached for the stars, you know, I've always looked and see. It's not like about a foot in front of you. It's not like 2 steps in front of you. It's a mile in front of you. It's where it's going. It's when we bought this place, it was a wreck. But we could never see it as a wreck until later when we spent all the money, realized how much of a wreck it really was. But I think it's just sort of, you know, what's it, rose-colored spectacles and all that sort of stuff, isn't it? I think it's just looking the world as a nice place and not looking at issues, looking at problems. A problem's just a solution in disguise, isn't it? You know, all that sort of stuff, you know. So I don't think there's a secret, is there? There's not a secret. I don't have a line where this is my line for everything. I'm not, you know, a Richard Branson that probably has some amazing, you know, boom, 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 this is what you do. I'm quite a sort of just a happy chap. I just like to smile and have fun, and I want everyone to have fun with me. I mean, that really is about it. And when people don't have fun, when people are nasty or people are rude, you know, I try to avoid that and park that somewhere else if that's what they want to be like, you know. And people are nasty and people are rude, you know, unfortunately. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't think there's a specific line. It's just that's the way I am, really.
And I think that's why you stand out from the crowd, Bob. I have to say, I think Sir Bob Walton is only a New Year's on list away. I think that's an inevitability given all that you've achieved and continue to achieve. Look, I'd love to carry on talking to you, but time is against us. But thank you so much for joining us. There'll be lots of people from all corners of the globe that will be taking lots and lots of notes and lots of great and valuable information away from this chat today. So thank you so much, Bob. Great having you on the live stream today, and look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Amazing. Wonderful to see you. I miss you. Let's get together soon.
Absolutely, we will.
Bye-bye now.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.